Welcome to the Build Your Coaching Business Around the 9 to 5 podcast. I'm your coach, Pamella Pritchard, and I help you go from employee to business owner. Whether you're creating your first client or learning how to create clients on repeat whilst holding down your day job, I'll help you make your business dreams a reality. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to Build Your Coaching Business Around the 9 to 5 podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about something that is a little bit different to my usual angle, but I want to talk about looking the part as you build your coaching business. The reason I am bringing this up today, because it's a little bit of a random topic, but it's going to link to so many things, as you're about to find out, is that yesterday in my stories, I posted something that isn't the kind of thing I normally post. If you were to hang out with me and spend a day with me, it's the kind of shit that I would say regularly, though. It just doesn't come out so much in a business capacity, but I want to talk about it because it's interesting and it's important. I posted a reel and my posture was terrible. I was leant over and I was in a bikini and my belly was squished and round and doing what bellies do when you're hunched over. And I went to post it and I saw what I looked like and I nearly re-edited it, as in refilmed it, actually, not re-edited it. I nearly refilmed the whole thing. And even though it was like a 5-second B-roll, even though it would have taken me literally 5 seconds, plus obviously the editorial edits, because I'd already done the reel, it was pretty much ready to go. I had to make a decision in that moment. And the decision that I made was, no, I'm not changing how I look. This is what a human body does when you have terrible posture. And that's how I happened to be sat. And I didn't want to take away from the authenticity of the message that had come through that I'd done as the overlay to the B-roll. And I didn't want to edit what I look like, because that is what I am. I have a human body, and that's what happens when you sit down. And what I wrote in my story was this quote: I cannot be asked to change my body for the benefit of anyone else's approval other than my own. I'll say that again. It said, I cannot be asked to change my body for the benefit of anyone else's approval other than my own. Now, if you've been socialized as a woman and you have had a career, which is all of my listeners, because that's who I speak to, then you have probably been subject to office rules, expectations about what you should look like, how you should be dressed, how you should have your appearance. There's probably even been a code of conduct on what you should wear and how you should dress and present yourself. And arguably, there's a time and a place. I think if you're a surgeon, you want to be wearing overalls and gloves. Pretty much any other time, I do find it. Oh, and maybe if you're in a like an engineering type role where you are required to wear safety wear. So safety, any job that requires a safety element for you or for other people, or a hygiene element for you or for other people, all for it. But the more I think about it, and the longer I've been out of corporate, the more I find myself questioning these societal norms that we have just taken for granted most of our lives. And I realized that as I had started my coaching business, I unknowingly just conformed to these unwritten rules about what a life coach is meant to look like and how they're meant to present. And also as a woman, how I'm supposed to look and how I'm supposed to present. And I think the pandemic that all of us experienced was a real opportunity for women across the world who have been socialized in the way that I am describing and so primarily Western culture. But I know that there are some Eastern cultures that are very about the appearances. And I think the pandemic invited a lot of women to just embrace what they actually look like without makeup, without a specific dress code, without trying to conform to a specific way of looking or being. And it was really, really refreshing. What was interesting though is that I, like many of my colleagues, many of my clients, many of my peers, many of the coaches that I work with, we all started our business around the same time. If you started your business in the last 6 months, the last 3, 4 years, especially if you started your business when I did in 2020, then you probably navigated this. I remember in some of the very first videos that I shared, I didn't have makeup on. And I remember the absolute mind drama that I had about, do I show up? Will I look presentable? What if people don't take me seriously? What if people don't think I'm professional? And look, I'm just going to say, like, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm fully made up today. I've got makeup, I've done the jewelry, I've got some clothes on that I feel nice in. And that's just how I like to present. But I do that for me. I do that because I want to feel good in myself. And sometimes me feeling good in myself means not going through the effort and the hassle of putting makeup on, and not going through the effort and hassle of wearing certain clothes, and choosing to wear clothes that feel more natural, feel more comfortable, feel more loose. But it doesn't make invalid the times when I choose to dress up or when I choose to look a certain way. But what I came to, and I want to talk about this specifically because I don't know if enough people do this. And I forget that the way that I think may not be the way that everybody else thinks. And maybe I have something to offer you today. And that is this idea that you don't have to dress for anyone, even when you're showing up for your clients, even when you're showing up to talk about your business, to talk about the thing that you love, to show up in full service. You don't have to do it in a way that you think is going to please other people, because that at its core is an energy that isn't isn't heart centered. It isn't soul led. It is ego led. And what's interesting is that I'm going back to a couple of different clients that I've worked with over the years who have come to me expressing different challenges when it comes to how to present themselves and getting comfortable with getting visible and presenting themselves. I've had clients who struggle to look in the mirror, who don't enjoy their appearance and don't love what they see. I've had clients who get anxious when it comes to public speaking, who feel very subconscious when it comes to being in front of other people and presenting themselves. And I've also had clients who simply just didn't know how to navigate the waters, didn't know if it was more appropriate or going to yield better results or be more effective if they showed up in a particular way. And I want to address some of the harsh realities of the online space and just the way that people respond in general. And also what we're working to achieve as life coaches and what we're actually here about and what really matters. So, the thing that I'm going to address that is the difficult thing to say, but I'm going to say it, is that we have been conditioned societally to find things that are more appealing or conventionally attractive by Western standards, to develop a very subconscious psychological trust that we're not necessarily aware that we're doing. That's why you see news agents, anchor men and women who are typically quite attractive to look at by Western standards. And attractiveness is obviously highly subjective and it's highly individual. But by Western standards, when you think about the eras of fashion, of the things that we see in magazines, or the things that we're told we should like based on advertisements and the media, then you don't have to look very far to see that there is a societal standard of what conventional Western beauty looks like. And the sad thing is that we've been conditioned to conform to those ideals. And yet, at a cognitive level and at a human to human level, we connect so much more deeply than anything that you see superficially. And it's really important that you notice, and I invite you to notice this within yourself, to just evidence that this is just the world we live in. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's acceptable. And in fact, this entire podcast is designed to challenge those societal norms that we've all been conditioned to. But it would be ignorant of me not to acknowledge the context in which we're navigating. So notice it within yourself when you're scrolling on Instagram, when you're looking at a new coach, when you're looking at the media, watching a movie, watching a TV show. Who do you find that you naturally trust more? Who do you find yourself more compelled to watch and to keep watching and to stay engaged with? I think you know that things that seem to conform to Western standards of beauty tend to have this ability to magnetize and attract and keep a certain following. What I want to offer is that is incredibly superficial and it's incredibly short lasting. This is the good news, because it means that even if people find you and they like the aesthetics, and I'm not just talking about what you physically look like, I'm referring to the overall arch of aesthetic here. Like, think about it: branding, colors, having a pretty banner, having a pretty website with some kind of coherence with your colors and things like that, having a logo. All of these are aesthetic attempts to build an identity or a picture in your mind as the consumer, as the client or the customer, to connect with the product or the service that is being sold to you, to connect with the storyline if it's in a movie, to decide who the hero and who the villain is. This is happening all around us, whether we like it or not. And you may be conforming to that, whether you realize it or not. Notice if you've ever hesitated to film to camera if your makeup wasn't done, or if you weren't freshly showered and ready to kind of go and be presentable. Notice if you've doubted whether people are going to like you or warm to you unless you look a certain way. I have heard it so many times from coaches who have said to me, oh, but I don't look like what a coach should look like. And I think there's this again, this Western conventional idea of what a life coach should look like, which is some kind of mildly attractive, serene, calm looking, approachable looking, late 30s, early 40s woman who has a very brightly lit, clean home. There's no clutter. Everything's really, really professional. She's maybe wearing a professional suit dress. Unless she's the hippie type, of course. If she's the hippie type, then maybe she's wearing the hat and feathered earrings and a boho vibe. And you're probably thinking, Pamella, I've seen you do all of these things and I've seen you wear all of these things. I'm going to speak to that in a second as well. But notice where you are molding yourself to fit some kind of ideal, this kind of image of what you think a life coach should be. Because I want to offer to you, as I just said, it's so short-lived. That stuff is so short-lived and so superficial. And if you're thinking, yeah, but Pamella, these people have all the followers, these people get all the likes, you don't know what their bank account is saying. You don't know how many clients they're actually serving. And you don't know how many of those followers and likes are actually converting into clients. So I want to very quickly nip that in the bud. And I want you to also really think about heart to heart, like soul to soul, when it actually comes down to putting money where your mouth is. What is it that you buy into more? Maybe the looks, whether that's the looks of the individual person and how much they've dressed up, or how they've chosen to present themselves, which is a big part of it. But also maybe it's the branding, the vibe, the colors, the banners, the I'll speak about what it's actually doing, but the way that it's captured your attention, all of that stuff is short-lived if there is no substance in what they're actually saying. If there is no substance, it doesn't matter how pretty your business looks, how pretty you look, how well you have presented yourself, or how well you have presented your business. If it is lacking substance, you are going to be lacking the clients and the money. This is great because what I find is that most of, especially the clients I work with, they have so much substance. And for them, it's bringing that substance to life in a way that's going to capture the attention of people in the way that superficial attractiveness achieves. So this is where we get into like the sales psychology of it a little bit, because from a sales psychology perspective, the thing that is most attractive, the thing that actually makes you magnetic, that makes your clients not only find you, but when they find you, want to stick around and actually start paying attention and start to see you as the agent of change for their lives. And in time, and it doesn't take much time, it can happen in the space of one binging set, like find you, binge you, and work with you. And it can happen over a period of months and even years sometimes. It's not our business to know the time frame, but it is our business to do everything on our power to give them the information they need to make a decision very quickly if they find you and you have something that they need right there and then. So the way that I invite you to think about that is to think about the sales psychology of it. It might take something something that's eye-catching to capture attention. But what really captures attention is substance. And the reason why that's a good thing is that that means that what matters more than how you look is what you actually say and how you communicate. And how you communicate is both how you capture attention, not with physical appearances, whether that's your physical appearance or whether that's with the branding, the logo, the colors, the banners, whatever it is you're using, but actually the substance of what you are saying and the things like the message, the actual transformation, the way that you describe the client problem and the solution that you create for them, the way that you can get under the skin of what's really going on in your client's heart, body, and soul. And the way that you can show them that not only do you understand what they're going through, that you know why they're going through it, and that you have the solution to help them go through it, and that it's available to them right here, right now. That's the substance. The substance is your message. But the other side of the message, because obviously the message is everything. And yes, I am literally in the middle of delivering a messaging mastery course right now. So that's very much top of mind. But the thing that matters, that actually makes the message work above all else, is your embodied authenticity. Your embodied authenticity of the message. That's what will always transcend anything at the physical, superficial, artificial, what you see is what you get level. Because authenticity is what connects human to human. It is what connects us all. It is what keeps you coming back to this podcast and listening to another episode and another episode and another episode. And think about it. If you're listening to this right now on a podcast, you can't even see me. That's a great thing. That means any of those preconceived ideas based on how I look, don't currently come into your mind when you just get to hear the message as it wants to come through. But I think we all get, and I know I certainly have, and I see it with my clients day in, day out, is that when it comes to the platforms where there's a visual, YouTube, Instagram, stories, carousels, posts, doing B-roll, being on Facebook, TikTok, these video-based or image-based platforms, it's creating this whole layer of drama that is all based around this superficial layer of appearances of how you look and appearances of how your business looks. So how do we overcome that? Because I know that you may be thinking that, well, you don't have a podcast yet, or you want to be visible, you want to be on a social media platform. Maybe you are actually about to launch, or you're already very active on social media and any of the platforms, any of the meta platforms, TikTok, Pinterest, what else, YouTube, and X, or whatever else there is. You're probably thinking, yeah, but okay, what do I do? Because no matter what, people are going to see me and they're going to have ideas. And I think this is why that story was so powerful yesterday. I think it's because I was just being me. It's that embodied authenticity. And I need to do more of it. That was a lesson for me too. It was a reminder to me to do more of it. And it was a reminder and it got me thinking. It was a reminder to me that it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to be who I am. It is safe to be who I am, because I have a deep ingrained belief. This is something I teach inside my messaging mastery and all my one-to-ones. I have a deep ingrained belief that the people who consume from me, maybe there'll be people who come into my world and leave again, and that's okay. People who follow and then unfollow, or like a few posts and disappear, that's okay. I love you anyway. But the people who come into my world and stay in my world, who truly consume, who are really interested in what I have to say, the ones that follow me, that like most of what I do, even if I don't see the like, even if I know that they're reading it, those who listen to my podcast, if that's you as well, thank you so much. Those who are consuming my email, I have a deep ingrained belief that if you're here and you're sticking around, it's because we're connected on a way deeper level than what's superficial, which means there will be episodes where, if you see me on YouTube doing this podcast, episodes on some days where I've been in the mood to present myself and be ready. And the reason I do that is because I do it for me, because it makes me feel good, because it gets me in the mood, because it allows me to be in my power. And then there will be other weeks. I think specifically episode 2 or 3 really stands out to me as being a week when my eyes were tired from my contact lenses. I think I was on my period that week, but I was also committed to showing up. I still knew I had something valuable to say. And you saw me with like greasy hair, glasses, minimal makeup on. And I'm just, again, it's still me. It's still my brain. It's still my philosophies. It's still my passion. It's still everything that I have to bring to the table. And I trust you to be able to look at the authentic message and receive the value that actually needs to come through. And I want to offer that you get to do this too for your clients. That I want to offer it's absolutely okay to choose to have a game face when it comes to being visible and being seen online. Just as if you were going to a party, you want to conform and dress the part and get in the mood and be in that version of you, be in that identity of you. And then there's other times where you don't have the energy to step into this curated identity, and that's okay because it's still you. I'm really hoping that this is making sense. Drop me a DM if any of this is making sense, because I tried to prepare for this episode, and the truth is that the notes were very jumbled. I don't feel like I'm being as coherent as I like to be on the episode, but I just really want to express this from a truly like heart-centered place, because it's not that I'm going to sit here and pretend that you don't ever have to present yourself, or that it's okay to not present yourself. I don't care what you do. You shouldn't care what you do, But if you care about what you do, like most of my clients do, it's a freaking minefield to know how to navigate it. And this is my point. My point is, it is a minefield, that it's okay to be presentable if that is what feels most appropriate for you. And I also invite you to remember that what you think is appropriate and just become mindful of the ideals that you're buying into, and to challenge yourself. If there are days where you just don't have the energy or the inclination or the desire to be presentable, whatever the hell that means, then it's absolutely perfect for you just to be your unpresentable self. Because what you have to say, who you are, regardless of what you look like or how you present, is always going to be the most important, most valuable thing that you could possibly offer anybody who wants to tune in and listen to you. I cannot express that enough. It actually kind of makes me emotional to say it. And one of the things that have helped me cultivate this over time, because I remember, right, when I was a teenager, I'm, in case you didn't know, I'm really petite. I'm actually dinky. I'm like 5 foot. Maybe that was new to you. I've had clients tell me in the past they thought I was really tall, and I was really flattered by that. I'm not. I'm big in energy, tiny in human. And I used to wear high heels all the time, like all the way up to my mid-20s. And then I moved to London and I had to walk everywhere, and I literally just couldn't be bothered. And interestingly, the thing that actually stopped me from caring and buying brand new office wear all the time, wearing like 6-inch heels to work, was working in a law firm. I used to work for this top 20 international law firm in the UK, and I loved it. I was so chuffed when I got the job. I thought I was something special. And I tell you what, the amount of casual sexism that I experienced, it literally made me never want to wear high heels again. And I pretty much stopped wearing them around about that time. And because, as you can imagine, lots of the lawyers that I worked with were incredibly high paid. And what else do you do with your money at that age? You spend it on nice things. So the conversation became all about how you looked, what you were wearing, the brands that you were wearing. I've never been a brand girl much in the past anyway. So this was like a whole new world for me. Little Devon girl. For those of you who are not from England, Devon is about a 4-hour train ride from London. It's countryside, it's small city living. And then I went into the big smoke and the big city with big money and big brands and lots of pretentiousness and lots of who knows who, and what red brick university you came from and what grades you got and what salary you're on. That was the world I came from. And so when this casual sexism started happening, and when I grew tired, like energetically drained of these superficial conversations, I actually started to rebel in my own way. I stopped buying office wear. I don't think I bought like new office wear unless it was cheap and in the sales, unless it was like once a year, because I just refused to spend my money on it. I started spending my money on other things, putting it into savings, going on holidays. I started valuing different things. I started stepping away from this like corporate, I don't know, like smuggery that seemed to happen. I grew allergic to it. And I ended up leaving that company, and I started really, really changing. I started, even though I've always enjoyed makeup, feeling nice, feeling pretty, and I've always generally been quite confident in my own skin, I I stopped doing it for other people. I think that was the big shift for me in corporate, when I realized that there were people to impress, that there were people who could actually have an impact on my career based on how they perceived me to be, not how they knew me to be. That was when I rebelled. I didn't know I was rebelling at the time, but I rebelled in my own way. And I stopped trying so hard. I stopped doing it for other people. And it filtered into comfort in my own skin in lots of different ways. And I think that's why I felt so comfortable yesterday to make a choice to just be in my own skin and also celebrate that. But I also acknowledge this. If it was that second nature to me, if I didn't have to consciously think about it, then it wouldn't have even occurred to me to talk about it, which is case in point that it's still something I'm consciously aware of and I'm always working on and I'm always navigating the waters of. So if you relate to this, like I say, drop me a DM. I must actually remember, I always forget to ask, but if you're enjoying this episode, if you enjoy my podcast, I would so appreciate if you subscribed and left me, I don't know if you can do a little review or a rating, but if you get any value from this, I do ask you to rate it in some way so that it can help more people find it. That would mean everything to me. And if you'd like to, and if you feel called to, share with me what your takeaway was, or if you enjoy this kind of conversation, let me know, because I love to hear it and I get to share it with my community and encourage more people to listen. So another thing that I want to invite you to do, that's enough of my storytelling, I want to bring it back to you now, is to think about, in what ways do you conform in your coaching business? And if everything in your coaching business is in that stage where it's kind of new and you're still figuring it out and you're still trying to find your way, also look at the places where you're very comfortable in your own skin. And even there, look at the ways that you still conform. Look at the ways that you still do something for other people instead of doing it purely for yourself. And I want to give you a challenge. I want to give you a challenge. I want to challenge you to tap into your authenticity. How do you do that? You do that by checking in and asking yourself, what do I really want? What is actually true for me and the energy that I have to bring to this right now? Do I want to make myself look a little bit extra presentable today? And hey, look, if you're filming, if you're creating something for your programs, if it's something that's going to last a while, then hey, if you want to look good for it, go, good for you. Like, I ain't going to stop you. I'm not saying that nobody should be wearing makeup. I'm not saying hang up your bras. But I want you to check in with yourself and just notice the entanglement of, are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it for other people? And does doing it for other people make you feel more safe within yourself? I think that's going to be the layer deeper, level 2.0 here, that really shows you where you're at. Because if your first answer is, the truth is I can't be asked and I'd much rather just not have to do that today. But in order for you to feel safe, to feel enough, to feel worthy, to feel like you won't be judged or won't be abandoned or ostracized or any of those types of things, so it makes you want to put the effort in, then in that instance, I ask you to hold back and to really challenge yourself if that is actually how you want to continue to operate in your business. When I did this in my business, I went through a phase, and you may find this too. I call this the pendulum swinging. And this happens with any shift in awareness, in behavior, in belief. What I find tends to happen is that when we notice that we have been operating in one way for quite some time and we want to change it, we tend to go all the way to the other way. It's like the pendulum swings, like a seesaw. We go from all the way over here to all the way over there. That's what happened to me in my business. When I realized I was doing this, even though by then I'd left that company years ago by that stage, but it started to show itself in these new and interesting ways in my business. Like, I felt like I couldn't go on video unless I was done up. I didn't feel comfortable being on coaching calls unless I was like full makeup. Now I'm somewhere in between. Some days you get me all done up because that's just the day I'm having. Other days you get me and I'm basically in pajamas if I wore them. It's like that kind of vibe. My clients see me in every which way. You go to my Instagram, you probably have seen me in every which way as well. So that's the pendulum swinging. And eventually, as you keep swinging that pendulum and you keep practicing and noticing and practicing and noticing and changing and choosing a different direction and having that awareness, having compassion as you do so, and coming back to yourself over and over and over again, what you find is that pendulum gradually finds its equilibrium, finds its beautiful middle ground, and you find what's comfortable and authentic to you. So enjoy this exercise, practice it today. Drop me a DM if you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I shall see you in the next episode.